Hey guys, this is Aaron coming at you with a video about unicorn money versus cash money. So you may be saying, what in the world is he talking about? And some of my staff, they've nicknamed this unicorn money. And we got cash money. And I want you guys to understand the importance of the two. So let's do this. Some of you may call it accrual, some of you may call it cash. I run my shops a certain way. I'm going to show you why I run it that way. You can run it any way you want. So some of the quick tips and tricks that I do. Number one, I do not pay my staff weekly. If you do, you end up with 2 to 3 months a year where you have 5 payrolls in a month. I pay my staff twice a month. I like simple, accurate, easily trackable accounting. So I do, I guess what you'd call bi-monthly payroll. Have I had issues with technicians about that? Yes. I would rather give an advance and still do bi-monthly payroll. It's rare. Most of them get adjusted. It's not a big deal. So that's what I do there. When it comes to accrual versus cash, basically if you're going, I don't know what this means, my accountant handles it for me, I'll walk you through it. Accrual is when the contract happened. Cash is when the money changed hands. So let's say, how could we do this? Let's draw, I need to make this visual for you. Let's draw a calendar and we're going to call, we'll do the summertime this year, June, we'll do July, and then we're going to draw out August. And if you get this, it will really help you track your numbers. It'll really help you understand why you make money the way you do or why you don't make money the way you do. So I'm not going to worry about making these all look pretty, but let's just do this. My artistry is going downhill as I get further. What you're going to end up seeing is if you are cash, and let's do this, just to make it simple. Let's call this one cash, and we're going to do a line right below it, and we're going to call this one unicorn, otherwise known as accrual. But you know what? You're really going to remember it because I said unicorn. And unicorn's really catchy and funny. So cash money. Let's say you did on the, we're going to pretend on every month for simple math that this is always the 1st and this is always the 30th, right? So let's say on the 1st, you sold a $5,000 engine job. The guy gives you a $2,500 deposit. So you collect $2,500. You don't get that job totally done right here. It ends up getting done, I'm sorry, you get it done on the 30th. The guy doesn't show up to pick it up until July 1st, and he pays you. Well, because you're doing cash, that money gets recorded here. And then somebody else comes in, and they do a $7,000 engine job. And they don't give you a deposit, which you should never do, by the way. All deposits on any job over $2,000. I'll write that down here. Get a deposit over any job, $2K and above. I'm still having to watch my staff. If they can't afford the deposit and they're offended, they're not your customer because they can't afford to pay for it. But another video. Okay, so $2,500 here, $2,500 here. Let's say he comes in and says, I want to do this job. And he says, it's, like I said before, I don't even remember the price I said, $7,000. So it's $7,000. He comes in and he says, I want to do $7,000, right? And he starts the job in this month and he pays for it in this month. You get that money right then. It's awesome. It works out. But then another customer comes in for a $10,000 job. That customer comes in and he doesn't pay you a deposit and he actually doesn't pick the car up until August 1st. So it ends up happening, and I'm going to do the drop-off dates. I'll draw the arrow always to when it was dropped off. It was dropped off here, but this is when it was completed. This one was dropped off, we'll say here, and completed here. And then this 2,500, he's all the way back here, right? Got spread out. And this is the way our jobs work, and I hope this word picture makes sense. You're either nodding your head or you're stroking your beard trying to figure out what I'm saying. So what ends up happening is this customer, he is giving you $2,500 and you've recorded it as cash as revenue for the month of June. And you bought parts for that job. Let's say the parts were $1,000. And then let's say in this month, you bought all the parts for the $7,000 ticket and got it done. Let's say those are $2,500. But see this other job that you got the other half for $2,500? Those parts were bought back here. And it was actually a $5,000 ticket, but you know what I mean. This job here's 10 grand. He dropped off this month. And you collected all the revenue this month. But you have no bills from parts in this month. No payroll to technicians in this month. We're just going to keep it as parts, though. I don't want to get into technician labor. I'll confuse everything. So what I end up doing is I end up buying those parts this month. And for that $10,000 job, they should be roughly $2,500. If I got my 25% rule. So I end up spending another $2,500. So if we were to add this up, and this particular month, we brought in $2,500 worth of revenue, we minused $1,000 for parts, and we had $1,500 in profit. Again, I'm doing a very simplified version here. Don't get hung up on would we pay technicians or rent. This month, we have $9,500 in income, and we paid out $5,000 in parts, so we'll do basically 9,500 minus, I don't want to get down here, I'll get in the way of this. Let's just ignore that. 9,500 minus the 5 grand would be 4 grand. So right here, we'll just draw a line, we'll put 4,000 bucks. And this month shows a straight up $10,000 profit. Now what happens is, if you look at the percentages of this, it's all over the map. It's not consistent. I can't track it. What would happen is I would have a shop manager in my company turn in a P&L, and the P&L would turn in and it would be 50%, 70% gross profit, and then 50% gross profit. I better put GP so you can pause this and take notes. So what ends up happening is you have a 50, then a 70, then a 50. And at first you go, you suck, you can't sell anything for anything. And the next month, dude, you're amazing, you pat him on the back. And it's like you're confusing your kid. You're slapping him while you're spanking him, telling him you love him. I mean, it doesn't make sense to him. He isn't doing anything different. It's the way the parts are being paid for and the way the cars are being picked up that's causing this gross profit to go up and down, up and down. What I do in my company is I do it with unicorn money. I do everything through cash. And you know what? We're going to keep writing in blue to keep this simple. I'm sorry, not everything through cash. I do it all through accrual. So I'm going to write this in blue so we don't mix these numbers up. So if I sold this $5,000 job in this month and collected 2,500 bucks, that 2,500, I would collect it this month, but I would assign it to that month. And you would go to your bookkeeper, you'd have her watch this video, and I would do a journal entry. And some people, if they use really primitive accounting, they literally just change the date and the deposit to the next month on the 1st. And they write in the memo, deposit on the Smith job or whatever, move to this month. But the right way to do it would be a journal entry. And your accountant or bookkeeper will know about that, so you don't have to learn all of that. But that 2,500 would go here. And so when it goes over here, now it's all correct. And when I order those parts because the job didn't get done, then what I would end up doing is I would roll everything to that month. But let's say that, remember I told you that job got done on the 30th. So we're going to erase this. And we're going to pretend that because that job got done on the 30th, that we forced the ticket out in your software, marked it out as billed, paid, done, gone, and then we write on ours forced in capital letters, and then we know to go back and collect that money. The car's out front, ready to go. When the customer shows up to pay, we then unpost the ticket, we enter in everything correctly, and we delete we treat it like a charge account, the forced amount. We delete that and we enter in that new check that they came in and wrote us for the other 2,500 bucks because we've held this like in an escrow, if you will. So what ends up happening is we bought the part this month, so I've assigned it to this month. And then I take the 2,500 when they show up and write me that check. And just like I said, I take a journal entry this way, I take a journal entry that way. So I take that 2,500, I add it right back to there. And it was here. So I'll do the X. I take it, I move it here through a journal entry. Please ignore this first one. I don't want to confuse you. In my head, I was thinking that the job actually ended up being done here, and I forgot we got it done here. So just ignore that first one. I apologize for that. So what ends up happening is I got 5 grand minus the 1,000. So I end up with a $4,000 profit. I come over here to this month. I had a $7,000 job that had $2,500 in parts. That stays in this month, right? And then if I look at it correctly and I think about it in the right way, I then say to myself, well, wait a second, I have a $10,000 job. The guy hasn't paid me anything on. He's in the next month. I'm going to pull that money back here too. So I take that 7 grand and that 10, I bring them together. So I journal entry the 10 grand back. So we'll say 10,000. We journal entry it back. We put the 10,000 here. Plus the 7 gives me 17K. Now I've got that 17,000. I minus my $4,000 in parts. Is that right? I can't remember. I think it was 4 grand for the 2 sets of parts. And I get my 13,000. And then whatever happens in the next month, I hold it to that month. Now, let's say that we bought the parts for a job, and then we get the job done in this month. I would call up my store and say, okay, Bob, that job, is it going to be done? He says, no, man, no, boss, it's not going to get done. So he rolls it to the next month. He then calls back. Now, if he has some antifreeze he's already put in it and some oil, I don't worry about it. But let's say it was a radiator and an engine, and there's a lot of labor that needs to be done, and it's just not finished. We don't worry about it. The labor, the technician will get on the next pay period. It's obviously going to roll. But that part, I will have him tell us where he bought it, and we have everything. He'll tell us the name of the ticket and the RO number. We have everything marked in WorldPac and other vendors through last names and RO numbers. My accounting team finds it, and they track the dollar amount. Or if we know the exact parts amount, if we know it's $1,000 even, for instance, we just tell our bookkeeper, hey, it was $1,000 for those parts. They just do a journal entry and bill those parts back to this month. That's that simple. Or they can bill it to that month. It just wherever it needs to be. So you might buy parts on the 30th, they hit here, you don't do the job to the next month, or it doesn't get completed the next month, those parts need to be moved. As soon as you do that, all of a sudden, this all starts balancing out. And this is like 59%, this is 61%, this is 58%, and you get a nice average number, and that P&L starts getting real balanced. If I ever look at a guy's P&L and then I run a graph and the numbers go here, 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 and I run it like so, what I end up finding out is they don't understand that they need to be moving their parts and their labor so that everything is done in the same month. You want on your P&L the contract for the customer, the parts bill, the labor bill, and the revenue coming in all in the same P&L, even if they didn't that way. That's the only way you can accurately track your money. So if the job starts anywhere between the 1st and 30th and leaves between the 1st and 30th, it's easy. It may sound complicated, but this is only on maybe 7 to 10 jobs if you're a European shop, and maybe 20 to 40 jobs if you're a domestic Asian shop, if you happen to roll a bunch over at the end of the month. If you get a month-end type mentality, your staff will push real hard to get them all out. You'll have very few that roll over. I mean, like a handful, like 5, 6. And on those, you just say, okay, I got some jobs rolling over to the next month into July. Mr. Bookkeeper or Mrs. Bookkeeper, please grab these transmission bills and this engine bill, move them to the next month. And they find them, they move them over to get the exact amount, unless we already know what the exact amount is in our management software and we're not in a hurry. This is if your staff can do it. At the end of the month, we're very busy, so sometimes corporate just does it for them. So it depends on how busy you are. You roll that to the next month so you have an accurate number. Because a lot of you guys, you'll fool yourself. You'll think you're actually making all this money and you're killing it in your gross profit when you're not. You're just not. Now, a lot of guys like to just keep it cash and keep it straight. And what they'll do is they'll do an average for the entire year. And they'll say, well, it averaged for the year. The problem with that is I can't tell if a service advisor is starting to take a tank and starting to fall off the wagon. I don't know. I can't do that model. There's no way for me to know if my staff isn't selling well or buying parts well, because I can catch it. I'm all about catching it in the month it happens or right after in the next month. I can't go 5 months to get a trend to go, oh crap, I guess my service writer really does suck. You can't do that. You've got to make sure you're on your numbers every single month. In your accounting team, if they watch this and you have a bookkeeper or an accountant, they're going to go, oh yeah, that's super simple. I know exactly what he's talking about. All you got to do is call in and say, this ticket's rolling to the next month. They roll it to the next month. If you do accounting in-house, you do it yourself. Your wife does it, whatever. Your husband does it. It doesn't matter. You just make sure they understand this process. It's very, very simple. I will teach on this in some of our live events in a lot deeper way, but you must have your P&Ls getting steady, not in a false way. You want the labor in that month, the part in that month, and the revenue in that month, all the same month. So if you don't get it done, it's rolling. And the rule at my shop is, the car has to be done, billed out, and out front. And I've even had some jobs get split up. If it's an engine job and the guy calls up and we get the engine done, but then he adds brakes, shocks, struts, and tires, we'll close out just the engine job and I'll let the technician get paid and everything else happen and let the rest of it roll. I also don't make my techs wait to get paid until I get paid. I have lost the best technicians on the planet because of that model. I always pay my technicians for everything they've gotten done as long as it's done, billed out, and out front. I don't make them wait, ever. And a lot of you may say, I can't afford that, cash flow is too tight. Work your way towards it. That is one of the ways you can hire amazing technicians. If you got a guy making 80 to 100 grand a year, he's doing the work of 2 guys, he's saving you money, he's getting you amazing deals with your customers, he's lowering your parts bill, he's really helping you grow your company. That guy you got to take care of. He's not going to come over there and let you jack with his paycheck. And if you go, I don't know how to hire those types of guys, that's why. You're not thinking the right way. You're not thinking how to attract them. You've got to have them. You've got to have them to make money. So make sure your accounting team sees this. They understand what's going on. You do not want the seesaw. You want it steady Eddie every single month, throughout the year, throughout the quarter. All right, guys, I will see you in the next video.